Now before we get into the video, I do want to say a massive thank you to today's video sponsors, and once again that is jerseyfifa.com. They really do help keep the content on this channel going, and they even sent me a free shirt which you can see on screen here. And as you can see, I got the new Manchester United home kit, and genuinely the kit really is top quality. I highly recommend their product. So make sure to get in a link in the description down below, and now if you use code JerseyFifa at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. You get a great football shirt, and you help support the channel, which I really do appreciate massively. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we have one of the most requested ever videos on the channel, and that is a tactical preview for the Manchester derby, Manchester City versus Manchester United. And by the time this video is uploaded, the match will be tomorrow, I think, unless I've got my days wrong. Just before we get into the video though, I want to apologise for my voice at times in this video. It will go. I might get short of breath at times. I'm quite ill, but I left this video too late, so now I have to do it today. That's what I get for procrastinating. And also, one thing I want to say is when we get into the tactics, I'm not saying this is what will happen. I'm not even saying it's what I think will happen. What I'm saying is it's how I would be tempted to approach the game. So there's a chance that when the match is actually played, we don't see any of these patterns occur at all. However, I'm quite confident we will see certain ones, but just remember that. I'm not saying this will happen in the Manchester derby. I'm saying it's a way that United could approach the game to try and win it. There's a few different ways they could go about it. This is one way that I would consider. And we can see the two lineups on the screen here, and the first thing to say is both teams have a few selection headaches, but also different selection choices that they could make. So, starting with Manchester City, we know they have a lot of squad depth. The options at fullback are quite limited and in the defence at the moment, but someone like Gundogan could come into the midfield and someone like Jack Grealish could come into the attack. But the 11 will be something like this. As for United, I don't see McTominay being dropped for Casemiro yet, just because McTominay is doing well and Casemiro hasn't fully settled. And then up front, it looks like both Rashford and Martial are out injured at the time of recording, so I think Alanga will come into the team. I think Ten Hag will want him for his energy off the ball. Although I dare say Ronaldo will play a part in this game at some point during the 90 minutes. It's Cristiano Ronaldo. He usually has some sort of say, good or bad. But let's kind of start with Manchester City in possession, because I think that will be the main theme of the game. We know that they dominate the ball against the best teams in the world, and that will continue to be the case against Manchester United. City will look to dominate. And if I was Ten Hag, I would stick with a similar approach to what we've been seeing lately, and that is the sense that United should press high up the pitch without full-on gegenpressing. I'm not talking Jurgen Klopp, get right on the goalkeeper, man for man all over the pitch, really pressing high. They don't need to be quite that intense. What they need to do is get Alanga, or whoever the striker may be, to split the centre-backs, maybe go man for man in the midfield, and then just squeeze the team nice and high up the pitch. So they don't have to be relentless, headless chickens constantly chasing and pressing, but they need to play with an intensity, because you can't give these City players time on the ball. The reason I wouldn't go more intense with the press is because if you get it wrong, City will punish you because they have quality players. Manchester City are a team that if you are going to press them, you have to get it spot on. Because if one player is just a little bit late or a little bit out of position, they will carve apart your entire team. And I don't think United are at a point at this moment in time where they really have the press on point enough to really go at this City team. So I would be looking to use more of a mid-block, and actually look to use some of the tactics that Eddie Howe used with Newcastle against Manchester City earlier in the season, where it was a 3-3 draw, but Newcastle had some real positive spells during that game and had the lead for a long time. And I think a lot of people would argue that United, Manchester United that is, probably have the better personnel than Newcastle. So if they go for a similar plan, maybe they could execute it a bit better and maybe get the win. So part of that plan is switching to more of a 4-5-1 out of possession. Now typically United often use a 4-3-3 with Bruno Fernandes kind of at the tip just behind the striker. I think in this game they'd be better off switching to more like this, and then playing in a mid-block, but not necessarily your traditional mid-block. A mid-block, typically the defenders might be more here. I'm talking a high-line mid-block, and that's the benefit of having Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane at centre-back, because they both have a lot of pace. If Maguire was playing, for example, he's a good centre-back, but he doesn't have the pace to play in this high line. Someone like Haaland would get in behind him and absolutely destroy him, or a third-man runner like Bernardo or Kevin De Bruyne. Lisandro Martinez and Varane playing in defence means that you can step much higher up the pitch, and it allows United to squeeze them. Now, what this does is it forces the centre-backs to kind of make a decision on the ball. If United are able to crowd the centre of the pitch, then Manchester City can't necessarily play the ball short, but they also don't necessarily have the pace in behind to go long. Now, yes, Haaland is quick, but Lisandro Martinez is quicker, and as is Rafa Varane. So that's the benefit of having these quicker defenders, and it's part of the reason that Ten Hag is building this particular team. He needs pace all over the pitch, he needs tenacity all over the pitch. In terms of what City will look to do, the fullbacks will come narrow. This season we are seeing them narrower than ever before. They've always been quite inverted. It's almost 3 holding midfielders at times at this point. And this is where United wingers are important. They need to come narrow, kind of cut this pass from the fullback to the winger. Do the same on both sides. De Bruyne will push quite high for Manchester City, as will Bernardo Silva. And this will give Manchester City a 2-3-5 attacking shape. And that is exactly why Manchester United have to be patient with the way that they defend. But again, they need to be energetic. They need to be intense with the way that they defend. They can't be too passive. Because if you give these City players a lot of time on the ball, they will eventually punish you. But this is the way for United to go. Squeeze nice and high up the pitch, but don't press all the way. A nice high line mid-block. And ask Manchester City, can you play the ball through us? So of course, by bringing the Manchester United wingers narrow, you're going to make life a lot harder for Cancelo and Kyle Walker. And the easy pass for them is going to be the pass out wide to the winger. In the middle of the pitch, we can see that United should now have it quite crowded, especially if the striker, Ronaldo, Alanga, Martial, Rashford, whoever it may be, is willing to follow Rodri. Then Manchester City should find ball progression a little bit more difficult than they would typically in the middle of the pitch, because United are really crowding it, which makes the easy pass out wide, and that is why I'm going for Malacia over Luke Shaw. Now, Luke Shaw had a good international break, but I think United need that kind of hunger, that drive, that tenacity in the tackle. Malacia will bring that. And then on the right, Dalot over Wan-Bissaka for more what he does on the ball rather than off the ball. I will come on to that in a bit. But this is the shape that I would be looking to use if I was United. And what they need to do is set pressing traps in the middle third of the pitch here, force City to take risks. Now, whether that's Haaland coming feet and getting the ball from Rodri here, we know that Haaland doesn't have the greatest touch. Maybe that can be the trigger to then go win the ball back. Something like that. And then from there, that is where United can then get the ball here and counter-attack. Now, the space to exploit is behind the Manchester City fullbacks. Yes, City's inverted fullbacks are lovely to watch, they're great on the ball, but it does mean that defensively, they leave gaps. Now, ideally, I think Rashford would be in a team on the left wing to exploit that, but it just doesn't look like he's going to be fit. Antony and Sancho have a very big job on their hands. If we're talking about how Newcastle done it, Alan St-Maximin played a huge role in this particular game. A big reason that Newcastle got the points. Antony and Sancho have to produce a performance of a similar level, if not a little bit higher. Because I think Antony in particular could have some success. I think in terms of dribbling 1 versus 1, isolating a player, I think he has the skill set to beat Cancelo in a 1 versus 1, but also Ruben Dias, so that is something to watch out for. But this is how United should look to play off the ball. They should look to make it quite tight in the middle here, really compact the centre of the pitch, and look for these opportunities to nick the ball back and then play. Leave the space open in behind, but not too much. They can't go too high. They can't go a full press all the way up to the halfway line, because then they will get exposed. But a mid-block with a high line, crowd the centre of the pitch, try and win the ball back, and then hit these areas behind the fullbacks. This is the real Manchester City weakness, behind the fullbacks. We've seen several teams exploiting them in this way already. This is the area to hit, and that is why it's beneficial to have both Bruno Fernandes and Eriksen in the side, because they can both play this quick pass out to the winger. That's where United can get at City. If things are going well for United, we can then expect that they will have some spells on the ball, and this is where I think the shape is important as well. And again, I want to go back to that Newcastle game because I quite like their setup. So Manchester City, when they defend, is often a bit more of a 4-4-2 because Kevin De Bruyne is often either 1, just late to drop back into the midfield, or 2, is pressing up the pitch with Haaland. Essentially in a 4-4-2, making this front 2, and it makes it easier to press the 2 centre-backs on the ball. If United stick with their normal structure, I think this could cause problems, So what I would do is shift into more of a back 3 on the ball, and bring Dalot in slightly narrower on the right-hand side. I would then push Tyrell Malacia up the pitch, bring Sancho infield slightly because I think he's much more effective there, and use Antony as our width on the right wing. Allow Bruno Fernandes to push further forward, and then McTominay and Eriksen to be our double pivot on the ball, giving United now a 3-2 shape. So they're still starting in that 4-2-3-1 formation, but we see one fullback come narrow, the other push high. I think this allows United to now outnumber the 2 Manchester City pressing forwards, and it gives United a bit more chance to get the ball in here. Now, once again here, the typical pattern we sort of see from them is the wingers from Manchester City kind of, they do contribute defensively, and they put a lot of work in, but just positionally they aren't the greatest in the world because they are so used to having the ball. And I do think there are opportunities where if your wide players are happy to drop a little bit deeper, and maybe we can get a runner from Bruno Fernandes to drag the fullback back, then I do think there's the opportunity to get the ball wide and then go from there. I think width, as you saw in the thumbnail, width is the key. So in the counter-attack, it's all about getting in behind those fullbacks, and then in these situations, it's about can you get 1 versus 1. Particularly down the right-hand side, I think Antony has the skill set to cause a lot of problems for Cancelo. I think that is the way to play. Lots of width, because City don't like defending in that way. When you attack, you make the pitch as big as possible. I say it all the time, United really need to do it in this game, more than ever. And perhaps, maybe, this is why you start with Ronaldo up front, if he can be a bit of a target in the box for someone like Antony or Fernandes or Sancho or Malacia to hit with the crosses. What it also does by pushing Malacia further forward is it creates easier progression from the back for United. Now, Varane's a good player, but he's not the best ball progressor. So if we put Dalot and Lisandro Martinez as the two wider centre-backs in the back three, they are two of United's best ball progressors, so it makes sense to have them as the outside ones. It allows Malacia to push further forward, and importantly, Sancho to come inside. I think this is where we are seeing Sancho's best moments. Now, often he is holding the width and doing a reasonable job, but it seems to be when he comes infield that he really comes to life. That's where his goals are coming from, it's where his assists are coming from, and it's where a lot of his good play came from for Borussia Dortmund. So I think it's key to get Sancho in this area. Get him narrower, closer to Ronaldo, whoever the striker may be. I think that is the game plan for United. This is one of those games where they're not going to have a ton of the ball. So when they do have the ball, they have to use the width. That is City's weakness. They are not great at defending it in wide areas. Can you get the ball wide and then either a ball to the byline and a cutback or a cross onto the box, something like that. That is where Manchester United can beat Manchester City. Will they do it or not remains to be seen. However, I do think United will be happy to sacrifice possession to a certain extent. Sorry about that, my phone just went off. Not very professional. It was actually one of you guys though. See, I do talk to my subscribers. If you ever want to talk about this video, get in the comments down below. I'll try to reply to you, or message me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything like that. I'll try to get back to you. But anyway, sidetrack slightly there. I do think United will be happy to sacrifice possession a little bit, sit back in that mid block with quite a high line, try and win the ball back and then hit those areas in behind the fullback. And then on the ball, it's about getting in that 3-2-5 shape. This is the Newcastle blueprint, which they set out nicely for us. Again, it's all about the width. City don't like defending in the wide areas, and I think that is United's best chance. Let me know what you think though in the comments down below. Like I said right at the start, I'm not saying this will happen, and like I always say, football is much more complicated than this, but what I just want to do was show you a couple of little patterns which I think are United's best chance into the game. I would love to have done a more in-depth video, but I'm simply not feeling up to it today, and I'm going to pass out if I talk for much longer. So yeah, now it's over to you guys. Let me know in the comments down below any other tactical things you think United should look to do in this game. If you're a Manchester City fan, how do you think you can counter these ideas from United? And then also just your score predictions, because I will of course cover the game over the weekend. I'll probably analyse it Monday morning. So subscribe, notifications on, so you see that video. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.